All right, everybody, welcome back to the next episode of the Train Hard, Recover Smart podcast. I am your host, Thomas Flanagan. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Mike Van Thielen, the author of the IZOD Method. It's a pleasure to have you as a guest today. As me and you were just going over a few things real quick. Just give us a brief background of what inspired the IZOD Method and how it differs from other fitness and recovery approaches.
Yeah, sure. I've been in sports my whole life, very competitive nature. And 2019, just before COVID, actually swam a world record in my age group, 45 plus at age 48. I'm 52 now. So right now, I'm considered a renowned biohacker expert. I actually next week will be the keynote opener in Miami at the Biohacker Expo with Gary Brecka and all kinds of other celebrities. So that's going to be fun. So obviously I mentor people, I mentor athletes, top executives, but also even people with cancer and Parkinson's and things that they need to overcome, because there's a lot of in common. Mindset is one of the things in common. Recovery is one of the things that, are in common. And so I'm not necessarily know how to train a boxer or a wrestler or a runner or, be the best athletic trainer for a certain population. But what I do know is self-optimization, is objectively reversing biological age. I know the body, I know how to upgrade the body, the mind, and life. And so by doing that, by focusing on self-optimization, we obviously going to indirectly help everybody getting to that maximum performance. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm doing a lot of keynote speaking, and I do a lot of mentoring, coaching, with personal clients. We also have an online virtual, so anybody can join all over the world, 12-week program called the Limitless Lab, where we teach you how to go to maximum performance through that self-optimization step by step.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about that 12-week program. You were showing me a card before
Yeah.
we went.
We'll give the website later so you can get the details, but basically it's called the Limitless Lab, 12 weeks to self-optimization. So it's basically 5 steps that are proven and effective that I put together a while ago, but now I'm teaching it online. So I call it the P5 formula. The first 2 P's are purpose and plan, right? And that's the foundation. If there's no foundation, we'll be spinning our wheels, right? So a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. So we help them discover it, or at least confirm it, because, with purpose, we ignite or reignite passion. We reignite fire. And if we don't have that, we're not going to take the hurdles that will be there in order for us to reach our goals and dreams. So we need that relentless drive, and that comes from purpose, fire, and passion. It also causes you to fix your focus. It causes you to, turn obstacles into stepping stones and opportunities and be relentless. So that needs to be there, that purpose. And we have different exercises and things that we do to make sure people are there with a purpose. Number 2 is plan. Once we have our goals and our dreams, many times they're scary. And that's why a lot of people are overwhelmed and they say, oh yeah, that's what I want to do, but I can't. Because our mindset holds us back, and our mindset is in the past. Past, they call it failures. I don't like to use that word because it's a negative word. It's not a failure. It was a lesson, right? But we're pulled back by the past, and we need to start being pulled forward by the future, which are our dreams, our goals, and be focused on that. So we need a plan. And if it's a big plan that takes 5 years, 7 years, that's okay. It can be scary. It must be scary. Otherwise, it's not big enough. But we need to now break that down, in years, in months, in weeks, and now days. What small incremental step can I take tomorrow as part of a plan that I easily can attain and gives me fulfillment, right? So now we have purpose and plan, foundation. Without a drive, without a direction, we're just spinning our wheels, right? And we give up. We throw our arms in the air. So that's the foundation, purpose, plan, 2 first piece. Number 3 and 4 is actually the self-optimization. That's where we upgrade. So number 3 is present moment. Present moment, also known as flow state or being in the zone. So being in the zone, most of us think is just for athletes, but no, it's a skill that we can all master. Because we heard it many times, people usually produce 80% of the things they need to produce in 20% of the time. So that means we're easily distracted. You just talked about, social media and the things that distract us, right? So we need to script our life. We need to get in control of our agenda. And so, we need to learn or master the skill how to be present in the moment. And that's the step 3, because that's where we produce. That's where there's no distractions. That's where we can get the job done. So we need to be able not to get there by chance or accident, but we need to master the skill to be there whenever we need to be there, so we can bring our A game and fire on all cylinders. Number 4 is the power of upgrading the body and the mind, and that's biohacking. That's the essence of self-optimization. So again, I'm considered an expert biohacker. So we're going to do whatever it takes to upgrade the body and the mind. We need to objectively reverse our biological age, because that's what biohacking is. What an unfair advantage if you're competing in whatever you're competing in, if we can objectively reverse our biological age. You may competing in the 50 plus, but your body's only 40. Would that be an advantage? I think so. Same with the mind, right? So that's number 4. And the number 5 is power routine. We have all these elements of the first 4 steps, and we're going to customize those for the individual and mold them into a power routine that we implement on a daily basis, because only with consistency and accountability are we going to actually reach our goals. We cannot be inconsistent. So it needs to be part of a daily routine, and I call it a power routine because it contains all the elements that we customized for you that you can count on each and every time. And that's the Limitless Lab, because what you will learn is you will learn all those things. We help you mold it into a custom power routine that brings you to the next level and the next and the next.
You said 2 of my favorite words: consistency and accountability. I love it. So for my listeners out there that don't understand what biohacking is, can you explain it to them, please?
Yeah, it's an amorphous term. It has many definitions, but for me, it's simple. It means upgrading the body, the mind, and life, right? And so I can help in all those 3 areas. From a health point of view or performance point of view, it's reversing our biological age. We all know our chronological age, right? Our chronological age is irrelevant, because some people die when they're 60, another dies when they're 100, and you don't know when you're going to die. So it's totally irrelevant. What we need to focus on is our biological age. What does that mean? It's how old are our tissues, our cells, our body. And it can be today scientifically measured in many different ways. The most popular one is telomere lengthening. But there's many ways we can objectively measure the effectiveness of these strategies. And so, the key here is to kind of make ourselves younger and younger, even though our chronological age goes up. Because I believe today, anybody, not just the elite, it's not about having money and buying fancy stuff and technology. It's about, like you said, accountability. It's about doing things on a daily basis that don't have to cost any money, right? It's getting those foundations in place, and we can talk about those foundations. I got 7 of them. That's kind of what we need to do.
I mean, to go along with what you're saying, I mean, when I work with my clients, we instill the term I use is non-negotiables. Every day there's non-negotiables that they have to do. And from what I'm getting from you, my non-negotiables is kind of what you're talking about, those accountability and consistent things that we need to do every day. So those non-negotiables are the things that are going to help us upgrade our lives and upgrade and get us to the point where, we can reduce our age, like you're talking about, make us younger, so we can live live longer lives and healthier lives and a better quality of life. Because for myself, that's really what I've been focused on these last, probably, I would say almost a year now, is, I'm 48 now, and I should have been doing this a decade ago, but, I didn't. But
You're too late.
I'm really focused on quality of life. I have a lot of injuries, a lot of ailments. So, I've been looking, I do a lot of holistic stuff instead of taking the harsh medications and things like that. Is my list of non-negotiables pretty long every day? Yes. So, but I really love your approach and everything. So how does nutrition play a part into biohacking?
It plays a huge part, right? It's one of the 7 foundations, of course. It's what we take into our body, right? So it's certainly not the only one, because people always think, exercise and diet. There's so many other things, and we can go over them, but nutrition is important. And I like to share the following concept, I guess, because it's an aha moment that a lot of people like and understand. So to me, there's only one cause of all disease, and it's called toxemia. Toxemia literally means toxins in the blood. But in a little bit more detail, what it means is as part of daily living, as part of our metabolism, we obviously produce waste, we produce toxins. But in a healthy organism, those toxins are eliminated from our body through the bowels, the kidneys, the skin, etc. So no harm is done. However, in today's society, and we can, put the environment and the EMF and electromagnetic frequency and stuff in there, but today most of us ingest and are exposed to far more toxins than the body possibly can eliminate. So therefore, there's an accumulation of toxins in our body, and that's what we call toxemia. Now, these excess toxins, this accumulation causes two major things, according to research. Number one, these toxins steal an electron from a healthy atom, which then becomes unstable, which we all know as free radicals. And we know free radicals can cause damage on a cellular level. That's number one. We're not going to go into detail there. But number two, even more important, we're now in a constant state of emergency because we can't keep up with elimination. And in conventional medicine, there's actually a term for that. It's called systemic inflammation. And even according to conventional medicine, systemic inflammation is responsible for over 90% of all disease. So, therefore, I say toxemia is the cause of all disease. So now, how can we be healthy and avoid any and all disease? Well, theoretically, it's simple. We need to keep toxemia in check. What does that mean? We need to reduce the exposure and intake to toxins from what? Man-made foods, man-made drinks, over-the-counter and prescription medication. You mentioned it, a non-negotiable, right? Toxic household products, cleaning products that you're touching, cosmetic products that especially women put on their face and their body. And then we got obviously the invisible threat that we don't think is real, but it is. It's electromagnetic frequency and radiation. So what we need to do, we can't avoid it all for sure, but we need to do whatever we can to mitigate all of those, while simultaneously increasing the nutrients that do what? Fight free radical damage, fight systemic inflammation, and repair our DNA. And if we just skip, tip that balance, we are bulletproof against any viruses and diseases of the 21st century.
Wow.
And that's how we gotta kind of upgrade our diets. It's not just what we take in, it's also what we don't take in and what we're not exposed to.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that you had I think you said principles. There was different levels of principles.
7 foundations of biohacking.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when they really get into biohacking or they go on expo, there's all these gadgets and, most of them don't work. Some of them work, but it's all costly. Of course, we can have a hyperbaric chamber in our sleeping room like Michael Phelps did, but there's 20 grand. Or we can have a whole body photobiomodulation machine of 100 grand. Or we can have this and this, and it's all nice. And if you have the money, sure, go for it. But those things won't work optimally if we don't have a foundation. So here's the 7 foundations, and they don't cost anything, right? Number 1, oxygen. Yes, we all breathe in 21% oxygen from the air, but 99% of us do not know how to breathe properly in the first place. So we're not utilizing it properly. And that's where breath work comes in, because most people don't know that the mouth is designed to eat and talk. And we got this device right here, the nose, not to sneeze. No, this is your breathing device. So a normal breath should be 5 breaths, 5 counts in through the nose and 6 out through the nose. Why? The nose is a smaller passageway, so it forces the air to go much deeper down into the lower lobe of the lungs and into our tissues and our cells, number 1. Number 2, over here, and this is pure biology, physiology, it's not opinion right now. Over here in this cavity, there's nitric oxide. So when we breathe in, the air takes nitric oxide and pushes it, because nitric oxide is a dilator, allows it to go further in our tissues, right? So it's about efficiency. It's about utilizing the oxygen as we were supposed to, and yet we don't even know how to, right? Now think about this too, because we're talking about biohacking. If we would breathe properly, 5 counts in through the nose, 6 out, we only would take an average of 5.5 breaths per minute. Right now, the people breathing through their mouth, it's probably 16 to 22 times per minute. So we would instantly increase the efficiency by breathing and oxygen by 300%. It may be the number 1 biohack to do. And why is this important? Yes, we need oxygen to breathe, but we also know that oxygen is oxidative stress. It's aging, it's rusting. right? So too much oxygen accelerates our aging and accelerates us, slower recovery, less performance, etc. So if we breathe properly, we increase efficiency by 300%. So yes, you can have a hyperbaric, and yes, you can breathe into a mask for 100% if you're a football player and you just worked out 11 seconds and you're out of breath. But but what if you knew how to utilize that oxygen properly? Then those devices like hyperbaric oxygen, etc., would be much more effective. So number two, oxygen. Number one was oxygen. Water, right? We are a plumbing system. We have a circulatory system. We have a lymphatic system, which is part of the immune system. And so things need to move. Stagnation means disease, right? So think of us as a plumbing system. So we need to constantly pour water in there. Now, so we need to hydrate. We heard many times most people are dehydrated, but not necessarily because they don't drink enough water. They drink other stuff that dehydrates them. We're talking about sodas and coffee, especially, but also juices and things like this. They dehydrate you. For 1 cup of coffee, you probably have to drink 5 or 10 of those to even neutralize that, right? So you never get into a positive balance. So we need to get rid of drinking all this other crap and just start drinking water. Hopefully clean water. So based on where you live, find out what's in your water and get some type of a filtering device to make sure you don't get those toxins in. We just talked about toxemia. Avoid those toxins. So drink enough clean water because we're a plumbing system. Mine is infused with hydrogen, but that's another talk, right? So that's number two. Number three, I would say light. Sunlight, right? So we need to spend more time outdoors, not just for the fresh air, but really get a lot of sunlight. We're always inside. It's easy to think about how you can get more exposure during your lunch break. Go outside. In the evening, if it doesn't rain, have dinner outside, play outside, sit in your yard, go for a walk, play with the dogs, play with the kids, grandkids. I mean, do things outside. You need the sunlight. A good example is look at all the animals in the Amazon or in the rainforest around the equator. They're vibrant, they're strong, they're colorful. Look at animals that don't see sunlight. An extreme example, a mole. They're even blind and they're not very attractive, right? So who do you want to be, right? So you need that sunlight. Sunlight stimulates all biological, physiological, and nutritional processes in the body. Now, if you live in Iceland or Norway in the winter and there is no sunlight, that's when we can think about, infrared, biomodulation devices and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. Number four, movement. We talked that the body is a plumbing system. So yes, we need to water, but we need to move. And this is probably good for some of your listeners because I know many people that go to the gym an hour and a half each day. And I also know people that do triathlon and probably exercise 3 hours a day. But if you sit at a desk job selling insurance, for example, the rest of the day, from a health point of view, this is no good because you're promoting stagnation. So the key to health is not necessarily go to the gym once a day. You can because you're moving, but you got to make sure you move the rest of the day too, whether that's walking or running or whether that's just dancing or being outside or playing around with the dog. Movement. You cannot sit still. And again, if you're stuck in a desk job, you may want to have to think about a high frequency vibration plate, mini trampolines, and all kind of other things that make you move and vibrate, right? The opposite of movement, number 5, I think we are, yes, is rest, recovery. You like to talk about recovery. So there's a lot to say about recovery, but we need to get a deep delta sleep and we need to wake up rested, not feeling fatigued and, oh my God, I got to get up. How do we do that? Because during sleep, only during a deep delta sleep, our body does what? Repair, replenish, recuperate, renew. I always use the analogy of a supermarket. What if the people that restock the shelves go on strike for 1 or 2 days? There's nothing anymore. It's the same with our body. It needs to replenish and restore. And if we don't do that, we're going to go downhill pretty quickly and encounter all kinds of diseases and injuries, right? Yes. And so we need to make sure we get into a deep delta sleep. And most of us don't know how to, right? So we need to implement elements that will help us. Just a few examples. You need to have early dinner, and you cannot snack 3, 4, ideally 5 hours before you go to bed, because if you're going to try to get in a deep sleep, but your digestive system is still working, guess what? It's not gonna happen, right? So that's one little trick. Another one is a lot of people's minds is going, mine used to also, because when people go to bed, they're thinking about, oh, I got to do this tomorrow, and then I got to bring the kids there, and then during the meeting, what am I going to say now, and how am I going to do this, and our mind gets going. So as part of my evening power routine, I do a 1-minute visualization where I go through the next 24 hours step by step, and I make the right decision at each point of contact. And so now I already got it out of the way. I know what's coming the next 24 hours. And so now my mind doesn't have to go crazy. And there's many other things that we can do to improve our sleep, whether it's a brain tap or a meditation or breath work, or whether it's sleeping on a, anti-aging bed cover, which basically is a grounding device. Whatever it is, there's many things that we can do, but we need to make sure we have a deep sleep and a good recovery. Number 6 is the diet. We already talked about that, right? We need to eliminate all those toxins and mitigate them while increasing the nutrients that help us fight inflammation, free radical damage, and repair our DNA. And then number 7 is the mindset, probably the most important one. You always want to start with mindset, because the mind controls the body. The mind controls health or disease. The mind also is the blueprint to your future, your success or your failure. So we really got to get into that positive mindset. We got to get rid of the past and negativity, such as failures, be pulled forward by the future, and work on that belief system and get our ego out of the way. Because I believe that we are all spirits that chose a physical body for a certain reason and purpose. And so our mind is there to communicate between the two. But unfortunately, our mind is 2 parts, right? The conscious part and the unconscious part. It's the unconscious mind that has all the power, that is unlimited, that has our purpose, and that can make us bigger than we ever think we can be. It's our conscious mind that holds us back and steps in the way and says no, and bases things on past experiences that have been stored as programs into that mind. And so we need to teach our clients, Tom, to kind of put that ego aside and really start working on managing and controlling the different aspects of the unconscious mind, so that we can just grow exponentially and be open and receive all the resources that can come to us. So that's what we do with the mindset, is work. And that's where visualization, manifestation, meditation, breath work, brain tap, all those types of things comes in play as tools to facilitate that. But we need to understand, that our ego is in the way of our own success.
I completely agree with that. I had for me personally, I had a big problem with that. I used to do my own programming. I used to write my own programs. I used to do all that. And it was just because of my ego. Not until recently did I give the rein, did I hire my own personal coach. He does all my workouts now. He calls me out on my nutrition. He does all of it. And having that, and that was the missing piece for me, was I didn't have anybody holding me accountable. I was trying to hold myself accountable, and yeah, I'm gonna cut myself a break all the time. But once he started writing my programs, and once he started calling me out on my diet and stuff, that's when I started seeing big gains. Like today I did a post, September 29th. I weighed 248 pounds. My body fat was like 34+%.
Wow.
As of yesterday, I was at 218 and my body fat is like 28%. And that's all because I let my ego go.
Yeah.
And I started doing a lot of what you're talking about. I started working on my mindset. I switched from that fixed mindset where, I was letting the past kind of dictate everything that was going on. And I switched over to that growth mindset of, it's not a failure, it's a lesson. I learned from this, and then I just go from it. And I started to get consistent with everything. And once I did all that, as we can see, everything started changing. My body changed, my mind changed, my businesses changed. Now everything's just going in the right direction. Did it happen overnight? No. Nothing happens overnight. It takes time. And I think that's another problem with today's society is that everybody expects that
Instant gratification.
they're gonna go eat one salad and walk out of the restaurant with a six pack. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But again, that's today's society is they want instant gratification. And you spoke about it before, how, and this is what I did in December with my coaches. We looked at my long-term goals and we broke them down into quarterly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, daily tasks.
There you go. And those are attainable and you find fulfillment. Yeah.
Yep. And you went over like your nighttime routine to get your brain to turn off. I kind of do the same thing every night at 7:30. I lock in my schedule for the next day. At 9 o'clock, I send my daughters their good night texts. I put my phone on the charger. I put my iPad away. Computer gets turned off.
Wind down.
I do some dishes, clean up a little bit. I put on white noise. Like I'll go in my bedroom. I turn on YouTube and I go to a black screen video with like waves or something like that. Having that white noise helps me get into that deep restorative sleep. I have an app on my watch that tracks the different levels of my sleep, so I know when I hit what levels. And I'll tell you, listen, as kids, we hate bedtimes, right? We hated when our parents told us to go to bed. Look, I'm in bed between 9:30, 10 o'clock every night.
Okay, man.
You
Yeah.
know, and normally, I'm up right before my alarm. I live with chronic migraines, so I get up at 5:30 to take my medicine, but then I go back to bed to let the migraines go through to get, because again, it's a low narcotic. That's the only medication I take. But I wake up, I take it, I let it kick in, but I go back to sleep. And then I'm usually up around that like seven-ish, but it's again, it's before my alarm clock. But doing all those things like you were talking about has really just changed everything in my whole life. And like you're talking about, it's the same thing I work with my clients. With mental resilience, as we were talking before we went live here, it's a lot of personal trainers overlook it as an important part of a training program. How does your, I mean, you touched on it already, but how does your method address the physical, psychological aspects of performance and recovery? And what tips can you offer for maintaining a positive mindset through training cycles?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, but there's not just a single tool. So what I do is with these 5 steps of the Limitless Lab, we come at the end, we'll have a power routine that works for you. And it entails all of those aspects. We have purpose, we have drive, we have a plan that we broke down just like you did. So now we know what the daily steps are. And then we have self-optimization, right? So we implement those 7 biohacking things. So yes, you're eating lunch outside. You are drinking enough water. You are doing this. You are doing that. And maybe you did buy 1 or 2 devices like a hydrogen inhalation machine, whatever it may be. So now we have something that works for you. And all of those different elements we put into a power routine. The idea is, and not just the idea, but that's what happens is that power routine has the same elements for everybody, but it's custom to you, what worked for you, right? For me to get in a meditative state, breath work works best for me. For other people, it may be meditation or yoga or some noise or a brain tap or whatever it may be. So we have different tools to accomplish the same thing, but this may work for you and another thing works for me. So the power routine looks the same for everybody, but mine wouldn't work for you and vice versa. So we customize. Now it's this power routine also from a mental point of view or again into the zone point of view that people can count on each and every time. If you look at a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant, right? To be realistically looking at their thousands and thousands of games, they never played bad. Yes, they lost a lot of games, but it wasn't their fault, but they never played bad. And you would think the other athletes are enormously talented too, and they're millionaires too, and they're professionals too. But what's the difference? The difference is that those guys were so determined and they had a routine that they could count on each and every time. That's why they never falter, right? And so the difference is the other guys, you know, people would say about them, if you hear people, oh, he or she had a bad day or a bad game, right? But why is that? Because overnight, their physical capacities didn't diminish, their skills didn't just go away, their talents didn't disappear. The only thing that's different is that those few inches between the ears, right? So for some reason, they had a bad game because they were distracted by what? Maybe an argument with the significant other or something with the kids or a headline in a newspaper of some financial situation. Who knows? But they were anticipating a little bit too late, or the ball slipped through their fingers, or they missed a simple putt with golf, right? And so we know when there's a simple miss, usually it carries over a few more plays or a few more holes in golf. But when you're in the zone, when you have your power routine and nothing distracts you, those misses don't distract you either, because you only have the end in mind. So a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan, when they would miss a simple layup, most likely they would block the shot on the other end. Yep. Versus anybody else would kind of, oh my God, how could I do there? They're walking down instead of running down, and it takes them 5 minutes to get back into the game. And that's the difference between a professional player and an MVP, the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire, and the difference for the average people of, you and I that are not millionaires, the difference between achieving your goals and dreams and just falling short. That's the difference. And so to me, when it gets to, yes, we give you things like how do you be present in the moment. I can go over that a little bit, but ultimately is that we create a power routine that you can count on to perform at your best, to be your best, to be in the zone whenever you want to. And so when you implement that routine, then you're going to have your best performance, right? When it comes to be present in the moment based on who you are, we got to work on many things, right? Because a lot of people have ADHD, they can't focus, they procrastinate, their attention span is 6 seconds, right? So what do? We need to start scripting their life, because they're not in control of their life. Their life and external circumstances are controlling them. And that's most people. Most people now are not short of dopamine, they're in a dopamine overload because they're on sugary diets and energy drinks, and the brain keeps squirting dopamine. Social media, why are we addicted? Why do we spend more time? Because it squirts dopamine. Every time somebody likes our comment or hearts our Instagram, it feels good. So unconsciously, we're going to spend more time there because we're getting that dopamine hit. So now our intelligence hormones are out of balance. Overload of dopamine, which causes what? Brain fog, lack of attention, lack of focus, procrastination, can't get the job done, can't get started, right? And so I educate my clients about this dopamine overload. We need to upgrade your diet, right? And we need to get in control of social media and your life, because control creates clarity. And when things are clear, there's no stress because we're in control. We know what tomorrow brings, next week, next month, next year brings. So when it comes to be present in the moment, we gotta control our agenda. We gotta script our life, and we gotta create that. And then we're in focus. We have direction. We have a clear sense of direction. We have focus. And all those components bring you in the zone. Because if me and you are competing about something now and I want to win, I don't care if there's a bus of cheerleaders stopping and getting naked right now, because I don't even see it, because I'm in the zone. But that's because I created an environment, a space that allows me to be there. And that's part of the whole process of the P5 formula and the limitless lab, to ultimately deduct all of that into a routine that provides all those things for you.
That is awesome. I mean, everything you're talking about falls right in line with everything that I try to do for my clients. Like we were talking about before, the program that I do is a 6-month program. That first 30 days is basically I let them continue to eat what they eat. I get them into a routine of working out, but we focus a lot on mindset in that first 30 days. Because again, once you go from that fixed to the growth mindset, that's where you see a lot of growth and you see a lot of progress, and you see everybody start hitting goals and hitting their marks and hitting everything that they thought was impossible.
Yeah, pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, and quickly. I mean,
It's
no,
exciting.
before I even when I first started out, I was just like every other trainer, nutrition and physical and workouts. That's kind of what I did. And then as I started moving on and getting older and getting more into this, and I started learning more about how mindset and your brain kind of worked into this and the behavioral science behind everything. I started working with clients, and then I started transitioning over to where I worked on that mindset first. And I'll tell you, clients came, like I had one client, she came in, she's like, I want to lose 50 pounds in a year. I'm like, all right, cool. We hit the mark in 9.5 months.
Mhm.
And it's all because I spent that first 30 to 60 days switching over her mindset.
Yeah, sure.
And and then after the 60 days, it's like the weight was just coming right off. Like every month it was just coming down and inches were just falling off. It was like she turned into butter and we were just cutting things off. Um, but before that, it's like somebody would come in, I want to lose 50 pounds. It would take that full 12, maybe 13 months to get it because I didn't work on their mindset. All I did was just work on macros and workouts.
Yeah.
So, but yes, just like you were talking about, is just that whole getting the brain to buy into the process first
Yeah.
makes everything else go so much smoother.
It's the blueprint. We need the blueprint before we execute, you know?
Definitely, and that's another thing that I've learned in this last year is when I left the military, the heart like the military, I had a purpose, I had a plan, everything was there. I leave, I lost my identity. I didn't know who the hell I was anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't have a purpose anymore. I lost all that. But again, last year is kind of the year that was the turning point for me. I reignited. I found my purpose again. I've been into fitness since I got out, but
Yeah.
I kind of reignited my passion again. So my purpose was was reignited. And then got a coach, and now I got my plan is solidified. And then everything that you were talking about, we kind of laid everything out for me. And again, it's taken some time, but everything's starting to flow, and that ball is moving now.
Yep. You can't stop it anymore now.
No, and it's like my days are like I'm not gonna say like on autopilot, but basically they are. Every day's a little different, but the non-negotiables get done. I have a block on my calendar. My morning routine goes from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. That's when I get up, I do my cold plunge, I eat my breakfast, shower, meditate, I do all that. And then 9 o'clock, I'll sit down, I'll check emails. I don't even touch my phone until I sit down and eat breakfast until about 8 o'clock.
Because it's your routine, and that's what everybody needs to get to, something that works for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, once you get, like you were saying, once you get into that routine and you find what works for that person, that's when the magic happens. And that's when you unlock that person's full potential.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So, I mean, do you have any last comments or anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
I mean, there's a lot, right? But it's just like for the listeners, just do it, right? Because we're all so stuck in that quote unquote comfort zone where we are content. And we all feel, everybody, we all feel there's more inside of us that we can be bigger and better. But there's so many things that hold us back. It's the fear, it's those past experiences which we label as failures. And so it's time to get out of that comfort zone. And a lot of us don't want to take that step. So if you want to find your purpose, if you want to grow, if you want to be extraordinary, if you want to get those dreams, you need to take that step and start doing things differently than you have been doing now, and have that open mind and work on that mindset. So, that's the first thing is desire and be hungry for that change and step out of that comfort zone. And if you don't know how or how to do that, that's why you have guys like Tom and myself and many other people that can at least guide you and show you where to go and what to do.
That's awesome. I mean, my coach's favorite saying, whenever we get on a call, he always starts with, he goes, "How uncomfortable were you this week?"
Yeah.
You know,
You better have been uncomfortable a few times or you're not growing.
and that's basically what he means is
Yeah.
the more uncomfortable I was this week, it means the more I was doing things that was helping me grow as a person.
That's
And
cool.
I mean, he got me into doing, like, I was doing cold plunges before, but I was kind of, just doing them just to see how they're helping me with my pain.
Hmm.
But now I like, my clients go, why do you do them first thing in the morning? I'm like, have you ever sat in 50-degree water for 3 to 5 minutes first thing in the morning? They're like, no. I said, do that, because that's like the most uncomfortable thing ever. Anything after that, it's a piece of cake.
Okay.
You start your day off sitting in water between 45 degrees and 55 degrees. That is the most uncomfortable thing ever. Anything after that during the day, it can't be any worse than that.
That's right. That's
You
again,
know?
that's mindset. You're just talking mindset right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm starting my day off in the most uncomfortable position I could be in. So anything, yeah, and I'm building that resiliency, and I'm putting myself in that uncomfortable position to set the tone for the day, because nothing else can be any worse. You know, but hey, Dr. Mike, I really appreciate you being on my podcast today. It's been a pleasure. I learned so much talking to you today. Um, and hopefully, maybe down the road we come back on and we get some more knowledge from you.
Yeah, sure. No, no problem at all.
All right, just hold on one second.